Welcome to the Common Time Podcast, a show designed to give music educators practical, inspiring ideas for you and your program. Each week, we sit down with world-class educators, composers, and conductors to talk about teaching, leadership, and building programs that thrive without burning yourself out.
So whether you're a band, orchestra, or choir director, our goal is simple: to help you grow and stay inspired and remember why you fell in love with teaching music in the first place.
This is season 4, and we're diving even deeper. More real conversations, more actionable takeaways, and more voices shaping the future of music education. Let's get into the episode. Our guest today is LeAndre Benton. Welcome, LeAndre.
Hello, how are you, sir?
I am well. We're so excited that you're on with us today. So LeAndre he's a celebrated concert band composer. He's a music educator. He's been a band director. He's also, we'll get into all the things that he is involved in, but he's an administrator now as well. So I'm looking forward to kind of his perspective from all of these different worlds that he lives in. John, why don't you get us started?
Thanks, David. Hi, LeAndre. It's always an honor to see you, and I very much look forward to our conversation today. So I'm just going to dive right in. Since you've experienced the field of music education from multiple avenues, as a director, a principal, a composer, as you look back, I'm curious, has there been anything that has kind of carried over most clearly from each of the roles to kind of bring them all together, or how's that been for you?
Yeah, so I would say from being a classroom teacher and then going into public school administration, the first thing that especially when I got into administration, what I realized is that everything's sort of stacked on top of each other. And everything that I learned from being a band director sort of created sort of scaffolding in a way, and how decisions really fall on people. So, as a band director, I kind of always thought, if I could just pick the right music, they'll be motivated, or if Lil Susie would just show up on time to rehearsals, like this whole thing could go well, but it's like, and then when I got into administration, I was like, if this teacher would just answer emails and but there's so many other things I didn't realize at the time. It's just like, they're humans and they have all these other life things going on as well, and they're just people. And
Yeah.
And they deserve grace and clemency just like everybody else. But
Oh yeah.
I think it really pulled back sort of blanket assumptions I had about things, um, and I
Okay.
realized that if I thought more, so every decision I make now as an administrator, I think about as if I were a band director, how would I want this to land? Every decision. So it's like, okay, does this need to be an in-person meeting, or can I send them an email with just some quick bullet points? And there's some things that are kind of
I love
non-negotiable,
that.
right? You know, but I always
Yeah.
thought, man, as a manager, it's like, this ain't applying to us. Why are we in here with this? We're just gonna sit over here. We're gonna talk to each other. We're gonna laugh at those people across the room because, and how that is.
Right.
And so at the start of the
Yeah.
year, when internal, things happen, and for instance, when our band directors are outside burning up, and doing all the things, and I say, y'all
Mhm.
just go handle y'all. What I'll do is I get with y'all individually. I'll come and meet with y'all in the band hall, and we'll hash out whatever y'all missed. And is it an extra step? Yes, but is it also integral to the work? Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I think everyone out there probably thanks you for making those decisions based off of your experiences sitting in those meetings and so forth. So it's good to hear that that crossover certainly is connected.
Yeah.
And now you've gotten into, this is really interesting because you served as an associate director at J.J. Pierce High School, where you are now as an administrator, but
hmm
you got into composition at some point. So we're going to shift there for a second. I want you to talk to us a little bit about your composition experience, but then also, how did your time really on the podium shape the way you
Yeah.
think about writing for ensembles? And then especially in terms of like the rehearsal realities, student experience, and like taking musical risks, and like where kids are right now. So talk to us kind
Yeah.
of about your compositional experience and kind of where you are with that.
Yeah. So, man, so I started dabbling in writing. I was probably in the seventh grade. Yes, definitely seventh grade. And I don't even think they
Mm-hmm.
have this anymore, but they used to have Finale Notepad, which was free.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah, I have
only
Absolutely.
that.
allowed
Remember
so
that.
many states. Y'all remember Notepad? Like that was a thing. Like,
Yeah.
but it only
Yeah.
allowed so
So
many
many measures. You
states,
can only
you
do
know?
so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so we were broke. So there was no way in Hades I was gonna go ask my mom or dad, hey, can you buy this $400 software that I don't even know what I'm doing, but I just want to
Yeah.
dabble in it. Like that wasn't gonna happen. So the best thing I could do was download Finale Notepad.
Right.
And this is kind of actually leads into how I write. Um, I would just look at different scores of composers that I really and truly liked, and sounds that I liked, and I would try to emulate that. But the serious part, I think, got when I was ending undergrad and was getting ready to become a band director, and I was like, I kind of like this, you know. Um, and ideas would float, and I would study more scores and write more things, and
Mm.
honestly, shaping the way I write is, I would say, even 75 to 80% based on me being a teacher and what I thought was good music. And so,
Mm.
I mean, in many
Right.
respects, I was just talking about a friend with this on Facebook the other day. He and I was messaging, and I said, "I know it's old school." He said, "No, no, no. This is what we need back." I said, "I know it's really old school overture. It
Right.
is. There's not a lot of rah rah rah, but from composers like Mark Williams and Pierre LaPont and Bob Sheldon and all that. I mean, that's like good. We don't have that anymore. Like I thought Mark Williams was gold.
Mm. Right.
God rest his soul. Um, but he was probably I emulate a lot based off of what Mark Williams did compositionally because I just thought it's just so dang good.
Yeah. I mean, the compositional world has changed significantly, even in the last 10, 15 years of what's being
Oh
written
yeah.
for wind band, obviously. And then the kinds of sounds that are being elicited. And there was a time period where a lot of the output was, it didn't even matter how hard it was. Just let's just put it out there, and it's like some of it was impossible. Like how do you get
Hmm.
kids to play in that tessitura? And I
Yeah.
don't know that all composers were really thinking about the day to day grind. Like a top wind ensemble at a university can play it, but
Yeah.
nobody else could play it. And so,
Hmm.
like, where does that fall? So that is kind of unique to hear your experience of like thinking back to, you said old school, but like that, it is kind of old school. But I think
Yeah.
there is certainly a niche there of that level of music that is
Well,
important for students, the student
and
experience.
I would argue, and I don't have empirical data on this, but it just seems as though that composers who are teachers and actually working and shaping sounds and creating sounds, recreating sounds, they, I think, write completely differently than those that don't or that haven't taught.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's
You
like
know,
I
manna from
and
totally
heaven.
agree.
my, if I had a pet peeve, I mean, I just love everybody, so I don't have any pet peeves, but just in case I do, um, a pet peeve of mine would be if a composer sits behind a computer and writes what sounds great in MIDI,
Mm,
Hmm.
mm,
and then it does not translate. Just
mm.
as David was saying, it's impossible to play, it's impossible to clean, it's impossible to shape, it's impossible, but it sounds good on MIDI. That's where
Yeah,
I think the disconnect happens. But that's why I think your music is so good. It's because it's so connective, because you understand, you have been there, right?
that's very
Right.
Which
kind.
actually leads me to my next question. You serve as, I mean, as an administrator, you have a very specific understanding of systems and constraints, probably
Hmm.
more than the average public school teacher, right?
Hmm.
So, how does that
Hmm.
perspective change the way that you understand how teachers are really navigating their day-to-day experience, but especially when it comes to ensemble music making?
Yeah. Well, man, that's such a good question because I'll utilize other teachers who I see struggling for engagement in an English class or another art related class. And I'll say, hey, I want you today to just stop by the band room, either first or second period, I just want you to just stand in the back. I'll let him know that you're coming, so they won't think like you like need him to like come over off the podium. But just stand in there for about 15 to 20 minutes. I want you to just take account of engagement and the student and teacher relationship, and how the onus is
Right.
put on the student to come up and think, and we don't just give them the answer that we continue to probe for a deeper understanding. Like, there's so many things that you could get out of just go to the band room and just go watch
Mm.
you know and I've used that with teachers, and the response is I always I always go back, I told you. Like, oh my God. And he
Yeah.
stopped and he was just like, wait, let me hear you. You on this row. The 1, 2, 3. Can I hear y'all play that line? Like, yeah, yeah. And that's honing the craft. But you could do the same thing in an English
Interesting.
class. You could do the same thing in a
Yeah.
math class. Do you have to get a little bit more
So
creative?
you've had teachers from other disciplines in the music classroom for observation. Wow,
Hmm.
I'd love to see.
Hmm.
It's just imagine their eyes
Hmm.
popping open like, oh, wow.
Yeah,
Because it is
yeah,
so different when you think about the classroom setting compared to really engaging students and asking them for feedback,
yeah,
asking them to
yeah.
provide immediate feedback with a peer. Like,
Yes.
that's so different. Yeah.
And I
And
just
how do
tell them,
those
I'm like,
teachers
all the
respond? Do
things that
they,
you're doing.
no,
Well,
keep going.
the response is generally, pretty open. And when we meet back together, just for me to just collect data and go, hey, so what did you think? And be honest with me, you could tell me like, why did I have to go and sit through that? I don't think I've
Right.
ever gotten that. And I've utilized orchestra and choir too for individuals to go to, but band, since it was kind of my lane, I sort of really pushed them to go for that because I knew that there was going to be some stop, fix, let me hear this. Okay, let's put this back together. Okay, let me hear percussion play this where everybody else sizzles and counts, or whatever the case may be. And they
Hmm.
end up going, there was just so much going on, and I don't understand how did he stopped, and then he knew exactly who it was and what sound was off. I was like, yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's incredible. I bet there are very few administrators that have used that route to kind of open up a new window of how classroom engagement can work. And we just
hmm,
take it sort of for granted, like, like this is what we do. We don't even think about how that would apply,
right,
across the board. But yeah, it's interesting. So I want to shift back to the administrator hat for a second. And we're going to probably jump all over the place here because you've done
oh
you've been
yeah,
involved in so many things. But as a nope, I changed my mind. I want to go to composition. We'll go back to administration in a second. And then we're going to go to basketball. I know that's coming up. It's in my brain. It's spinning around in there.
uh-oh,
I'm
everybody's like,
curious
what?
about the compositional part, the part here. It's coming. Was there a moment when you kind of shifted toward composing as something that like you claim as part of your identity? Because I know that's something that's been really growing. I've been noticing from you like a lot of things, like more output and like really exciting
Mhm.
things coming forward. So I'm curious about that, and then what made that moment sort of possible for you?
Yeah. um when I stopped asking myself for permission, and
Ah,
that is the honest easiest way that I can explain that, is when I stopped asking myself for permission to do this and do that. My brother and I were having a conversation, this has been a while back, and at this point in time, it was like, I think it was the summer, because I was going to different Division 1 conference trials to try to get in this league or get in that league, and it's tough. It's competitive. Everybody who's there can referee. They call balls and strikes all day long. But there's other factors that are also into play. Very similar to going to like a conducting workshop or a conducting clinic. Generally, everybody who's there knows what they're doing, right? But it takes other things that sort of make you stand out in a way. But at any rate, I just came back, I think, from Philadelphia, and I was talking to my brother, and I told him, I said, what if I don't get hired in that league? Like, I've all that time and effort, and I don't know, and it started going down this like road, and he said, well, if you take every sentence that you start with "what if" and just change it to "even if," you'll be amazed at how your output would be. And I thought about it and I was like,
Interesting.
okay,
Yeah.
even if I don't get hired, it doesn't take away from everything good that I've done to get to here. Even if I don't get this title, it doesn't take away from how rooted and grounded I already am. Like it completely changed the trajectory. I was so mad
Yeah.
at him. I was like, and that was free. I was like, I
That's
didn't have
right.
to pay for
Free
that.
advice. All right. So, LeAndre, I want to shift back to the composer hat. Was there a moment when, for you, composing shifted from something that you were doing or messing with to something that is like part of who you are, your identity? And if so, what kind of made that possible for you?
Yeah, so I think when I stopped asking myself for permission and sort of really uh, tried to dive deep into what, I enjoy, because I do enjoy writing. And one of the first things I think was I was asked, it was a few years back, to potentially write something for UIL sight reading. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Hmm.
Like this is, I'm probably gonna be hated, but I think I can do that if I know how that goes. And then I came up with something, and then I liked it so much. I was like, I don't think that that's, I'm gonna use that for sight reading. I think that's gonna actually be like a piece that I want everybody to just play just to play. And so I submitted
Right.
that to C. Allen, and he picked it up. Nathan Daugherty picked it up maybe 2 days after I sent it in. I got an email back, a personalized email back from him. He said, "This is good. I like this. I want it. I'm sending you a contract." And I thought, "Oh man, it's on."
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
and
exciting.
I had no idea what I was doing, and I still don't, to be fair.
Well, I know that you. So I know you've had conversations with Jim Barnes and some others. Like,
Mhm.
so what are you doing to build that that composition muscle, if you will?
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like based on, if I could do a comparison between other concert band composers, I'm really kind of behind the eight ball in the sense of, you know, studying, because I never studied composition formally. Everything that I learned
Hmm.
was from being a band director and both studying scores and talking to people who I thought were really, really good at their craft. And again, a lot of my writing is based on what I would have played as a teacher, and secondly, people who I thought were really, really good in the field. And so there's not a lot of people anymore that play Jim Barnes music. And that bothers me
Right.
because he's the GOAT. I don't care what anybody says, and I know Jim Barnes, and he's a little brash, and he can be rude, but the man knows what he's doing. All right, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
He's so good at what he does, um,
he
and it's
does. He
having
knows how to score
conversations.
for wins. Yeah.
Oh, that's and it kind of goes back to the question or the comment that you and John made earlier. Is a lot of the music that we see now, it's like, the clarinets are down the shy bar, and then you got brass up real high, and it's like, well, they're not gonna hear that, you know. It's like, how do you expect this to be heard, they can't carry the melody. And it's when you go back to writing, like Jim Barnes, for instance, all of his stuff is just, there's no doubt of what the melody is and what he wants to be heard.
Hmm.
I don't open a
Right.
score and go,
Yeah.
I wonder, is this important? Like, I just look and know. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's very
um,
true. Yeah.
You know, I do think that there is something that is unique about people who compose for the sight reading process of UIL. So if you have a
mhm.
good piece, you probably shouldn't submit it for that process. So I'm glad that you didn't do that, because those pieces are certainly interesting for sure.
I think unique is the right word there, John.
Unique is the
We'll
right word
just go with
indeed.
unique.
Unique.
Safe. It's a
So
safe
And
word.
honestly,
yeah, well,
John,
because
honestly,
we
hindsight, I look back and go, I wouldn't have even made it. Like, if that had gone through, there would have been, so
Hmm.
people would have, like, my house would have been on fire. And not that it was too difficult, but there's not enough time in the parameters that's given for you to be successful and do everything on the page that's indicated.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like,
That's very
That whole
true.
you know,
process, I don't miss that process at all, I
mhm,
have to admit. But I teach my music ed students how to do that process, and then
yeah,
I'm thinking,
yeah,
oh, do this and this, and then I'm like, I am so thankful I
yeah.
don't have to do that anymore. But
Oh
It is
man,
crazy.
actually, if it's okay to keep the composer hat on, but just take a
yeah.
bit of a different approach to it. So, as a composer and administrator and band director, you know probably better than most how a budget within a band program works, right?
Hmm.
And so, either if a band director is buying the music um, or commissioning a composer, how do you think about writing music that is both meaningful and practical without compensating artistic integrity, but considering the constraints of the public school budget?
Yeah, man, that's good. uh, I think
I
it
wrote
goes
that one.
back to, yeah, that is like really good. It really goes back to like the rehearsal space. And like, okay, I can write this really, really cool thing for the woodwind section, but are they gonna end up spending half the rehearsal time trying to hash this out just to make it do whatever? Like, it's like, do they need that or do I want that? You know?
Hmm.
Uh, and that's what it kind of becomes. It is
Right.
is this going to somehow make them perform better, or is this going to somehow fuel my compositional ego? And I say that as a person who, I'm a deep empath, and when I write things, and especially slow lyrical works, which that's kind of been on the horizon now here lately. Um, when I'm writing slow lyrical works, I think to myself, um, if I do it this way, are they going to spend half their time trying to figure out how to tune this chord? Or can I just stack it
Hmm.
like a snowman and we walk away? And it's still going to sound good. And I'm going to get the same result. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
because there's so many times I can do here. I'm like, man, I know this says it's a grade three, but that chord is that's not grade three. That's not grade three. Or I hear
Right. Yeah.
something that I'm like, oh man, you have all these like different inner like contrapuntal writing. I'm like, that is not. Mm-mm. And so a
Well,
lot of
You
right.
know,
a lot of what I write has to be centered around me as a band director, because I would open scores and go, yeah, we're not playing that one. I go to the next one and I'm like, okay.
Right.
And what worries me the most is when I see rest and who's not playing, because then whoever is playing is about to get exposed. So I'm like, okay, let's see, because we can all play Tootie real well. I'm the best Tootie
I mean,
guy.
we all kind of do this, right?
Hmm.
We have a stack of scores. I'm considering
Hmm.
the 60 pieces for the entirety of
Yep.
of my programming for the year. I'll just be going through. All right, this is from a curricular perspective. These things are important. This is great. This is great. If
Yep.
I find a section that like, nope, this isn't going to come
Yep.
together in the time
Yep.
that I have, I'm not doing the piece. I'm just not going to do it, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so now some things we that are teaching the future music educators and performers of the world, it's our responsibility to introduce these things to them. However, I remember distinctly when I was teaching public school that was not the case, right?
Mm.
So I'm trying to give them skills that the students need in order to progress musically and artistically throughout their time from sixth grade through high school through college, so on and so forth.
Love that.
But if the juice isn't
Worth the squeeze. Yeah.
worth the squeeze, I'm just not doing the piece.
Yeah.
But that goes
Yeah.
back to my point earlier. Most of those people that are writing stuff that I would that falls under the juice isn't worth the squeeze. they haven't taught. Now, there are people who are insanely talented as composers
Yes,
that have never taught. So
yes.
please don't, anyone that's out
No,
there,
no, no.
don't misunderstand
Yeah,
me. Don't like
yeah,
DM me about that. Be quiet about that. I'm just telling you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't wait
Well,
for
I
the
can always
DMs.
tell
I
too.
can't wait.
Well, I can tell as a
So,
trombonist, if I see glissandos in a piece, I'm like, they can't even do that. Like, that's between a pair of notes. Like, that's not even going to happen. And I immediately know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay, that one definitely ain't going to make it, you know? But, I
yeah.
think really good composition is a, a consortium in a way of three things. It is musical intent and musical integrity, because I think even grade one,
mhm.
two, and three pieces can still be musical, and they are. I mean, you look at any Willie Owens piece. I mean, people see his name and they don't even freak out
Mm,
because they know it's going to be very, very well written, and the orchestration is going to be
right.
spot on. Even with my band that has
Yeah.
no tenor sax, one alto, no bari, a bass clarinet, and three soprano clarinets, the whole thing is still going to make sense and sound. I don't know how he does
It's going
this,
to work.
and it really
Absolutely.
bothers me because I can't figure it out. But the
I guess it's all
musical
part of the
integrity is
process,
still there.
though.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, writing great words is hard. I only have 5 crayons. That's it. And it's like, what can I
Yeah.
do with these 5 different colors? You know? And in many ways, writing a point five, I can't even have a 5 chord. I like
Right. Yeah.
in most cases,
Yeah.
like that's not going to happen. So, you know, and I was talking to one of my mentors about, getting back to the really quick on Jim Barnes. One of my favorite pieces that he ever wrote was Albemarle Overture. And Albemarle
Hmm.
was actually
Yeah.
written for like a junior high band. But the ending to Albemarle Overture, this insanely woodwind lick that lasts for like 16 bars or whatever the case is, it's a little wicked. And I was like,
Yeah.
junior high band was like that? Like what? But the standards were also different back then as well, right? And I think over time,
Yeah.
because standards have changed, and there's been so much good that has happened in music education, and especially in terms of technology and staffing and finances and systems and infrastructure and stability, like all of these things over time that have progressed, it's really allowed. That's why a lot of Texas bands, the middle schools can play, the top band can play grade four, that's a really cool thing, you know
Right.
and in some cases we're lacking in other areas as well. So I think the musical intent has to be there, the musical integrity has to be there. There has to be some working knowledge of how all the instruments work. There has to be
Right.
some working knowledge on how every instrument works. And for me, I hate it as a band director getting ready to look at a piece and going, why isn't the percussion playing? Like they play this whole thing and they're barely playing. And so,
Yeah.
and I think there should be a study done on this, and it probably has been, that the amount of time that the percussion plays versus the winds in a rehearsal setting, and are they truly getting the same musical experience as a wind player? Like I would be very curious to see what
Mm.
that's like. And then you both know, as band directors and taught in public school, that half the time in the beginning of a rehearsal, while you're warming up the winds, the percussion, if they're not picking up sticks and getting ready for whatever piece you're about to play, they have no idea what's going on. They're back in the back, jacking around. Then you're gonna have to get onto them because now you said start in rehearsal 16, and they're like, oh, we're on the wrong piece. Hold on, right? And
Yeah.
so you have to have a working knowledge as a composer of how all the instruments work. And thirdly, I will say is your ego has to be subservient to the musical intent. Like you
Mm.
have to somehow be willing to go, okay, for this one, maybe I won't ruin that by putting this thing in. Like it's not really like we don't need that, right? Like,
Yeah.
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 Just
Um,
because you can doesn't mean you should.
and just because Finale can do it doesn't mean you should.
That's right. They can
Because on
play it
my
perfectly.
computer, it sounds great. My computer sounds real
Yeah.
good. I have the best band in the world right now.
That's
She
true.
playing
So true.
time. She playing time. She good.
Oh, that's good, man. Okay, so I want to shift to this. This question is this is more kind of upper level because of the experiences that you've had, and you've seen how decisions that are made above the classroom can ripple directly,
Mhm.
really, into the student experience. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Do you think? Well, what do you think educators and composers most need to understand about one another in this space right now?
Mm. Oh man, I think um, educators and composers are often going from for the same kind of idea, but they're speaking different dialects. And what I mean by that is the composer is trying to figure out um, what am I going to do so that this piece can somehow be the groundbreaking thing that's going to set me and move me from where I am to the trajectory of whatever the case is. And then you have
Mm,
the band director who's looking for the piece that's going to make them sound, but like it's so like six in one hand and half a dozen in the other, because a part of me says as an administrator, well, if we would do a better job of teaching, embouchure and tonality and tongue placement and air and how to breathe and how to articulate, then, you could do all those things that you want. But then the composer side of me is like, well, if you wasn't writing half of this stuff that don't belong in a grade 2.5, we also wouldn't have this problem. Which is also
that's
why I
funny.
go back to the old
That's
standard
true.
stuff, because it's just so good, and you don't have
Yeah.
all those problems. And in Texas, I think this has really sort of permeated out to other areas too. But there's something, I'm going to say this, and this is not a knock to anybody, any state, any region, any area, nothing like that. But there is this like um, sort of tacit understanding that if my band cannot play in tune and it lacks the fundamentals to be able to articulate cleanly and play precisely, then we have to play pieces that are on the faster side so that somehow the adjudicator can't hear the inconsistencies in a slower lyrical work. But
Mm,
here's the problem, and it's true. But here's the that like that sat with John real quick. He's like, ooh. But here's the thing though, is,
That hurts
and
a
you
little
both
bit.
know it, as like a judge or as an adjudicator, I hear all the same inconsistencies faster.
hmm.
Like everything that you didn't want to play in a lyrical
Right.
tune so that they could listen to, I just heard it really fast. They still can't articulate.
Right.
They're still playing out of tune. That chord never settled. It's just it's. I wish that I wish that there was this like merge of, and this is why I think that former band directors in many cases are some of the better composers, because they have a deeper understanding of how all the instruments work and kind of what teachers want to
Hmm.
play and what the kids want to play too. You know,
Yeah.
um, I just think we speak different dialects,
Yep.
but we're aiming
I
for
think
the same thing.
yeah, I can absolutely see that the connection there, or disconnect is probably a better word for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, so with your kind of broad overview of the band ecosystem,
Hmm.
in your experience, where do you see the like greatest opportunity for growth or rethinking inside the current culture of band today? What do you think?
There has to be, I think, um, more of an emphasis on really good music making, and somehow, and I hope I don't make anybody upset when I say this, but there has to be a less emphasis on the kids exist so I can do my thing. That's I
Mm.
that's honestly what I think. It's like this idea that they exist so that we can go and compete at Grand Nets and somehow try to get the next whatever. And I Yeah. And that'll go down another whole rabbit hole. And you're more than welcome to bleep that out, David. But I do think that there has to be more of an emphasis on the music making thing, because I don't want to piss anybody off. I really don't.
Yeah. We've got a soapbox question coming up, but you kind of just jumped to it. No, I think just to piggyback on that, because who knows what the motivations are of someone else? I don't know. I don't know what someone else's motivation is in front of the students, but I think we can all agree that if the students aren't first in the process, if we're not thinking about the people first and their experience and their growth, and since we happen to be in the domain of music, we're talking about musical growth as well, not just human growth. But those things have to be sort of coupled together. And if the competition fits that mold for you as a person, I'm cool with it. I have no problem with that. But there is, I think what you're responding to, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes the tail does wag the dog a bit. And if the student experience becomes something that's forced because of we're trying to get to the next level of whatever that may be, then we have to take a step back. And, I think on the podcast, we've tiptoed around kind of the idea of like competition and those kinds of things, and always trying to find balance, because I don't think there's a right and a wrong. Everything's gray, but it's, when you start seeing students that drop out of music after high school because they're just so tired, then, well, maybe the balance isn't what we think it is. And then the question is like, okay, do we have the ability to go, you know what? I don't think that's best for kids long-term. I'm not talking about best for kids 6 through 12, best for kids from the point 18 to 40. Like, what are they doing after 18? And how am I shaping that as a director based on all the choices I make? So that's how I look at it. Honestly, I think, you're right. If the kids aren't first, man, we drop the ball.
Yeah. My viewpoint on that is very similar, and I guess I'm just a little bit, too forthcoming with it. But what I'm trying to get at is yes, I think for years we saw exactly what you were saying, the kids who were burnt out, but now it's inverted because now the director is leaving.
Yeah, we are seeing that.
I think that we as a community have created something that is not sustainable. And it is not viable.
That I agree.
And that is this idea that somehow I have to keep up with all of these achievements. And here's the thing about this. And I try, my mom, I love my mom. She's so sweet. But she oftentimes will say, I do. Yeah, she oftentimes will say something like, well, you're an administrator and you compose and you referee Division I basketball and all those things. And I try not to let any of that rock me, even in a positive way, because what I do is totally separate from who I am. And I hope that when people see me, they see that LeAndre is just a good guy and he's kind of funny as hell. I hope that's what they see. Right? And he kind of looks good. I hope that's what they see, because here, just as much as people will praise me for the composition and the Division I and then this and then that, I know it can also be inverted. And then somehow or another, I will start to allow that to subconsciously reflect on my worth and my capacity, which is not true. Right? And it goes back to what if and even if. Even if I never get the praise, even if I never get the award for the piece, it doesn't take away from how good this piece is. Right? And so I think that when you're so grounded in you and what you do, and you know that the work is truly grounded in and anchored in helping young folks and helping individuals, then all of the rest becomes noise.
And that's the key. Yep, it's about helping the students. I feel so passionately about this. We as band directors, it should never be about us. Ever. And like, if I have now I have two, if I were to have two pet peeves, but I like everybody, so I don't have any pet peeves. But if I did have two pet peeves, the second one would be people's egos are too damn big. Like, it's not about you. It's not about you.
Yeah.
Racy
but
today.
It's hard because when you start winning, it's addicting. Like winning
Yeah.
is
Oh, you're right.
addicting and
Right.
success is
Accolades and
addicting.
all the
And
things.
it
Right.
doesn't take long for sometimes all of that. And the thing about it is, it doesn't happen overtly. And so it slowly starts to manifest and starts becoming this thing. And then there's this like external, expectation that, oh, that's the band. Like that's the group.
Right.
And
Well,
now
and
people are
it
like expecting you to uphold this thing. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
yeah.
It does
If you
become,
think about, I'm sorry,
yeah.
we're talking. For
No, good, John,
anybody
you go.
listening. There's a delay. I don't mean to be rude. I'm so sorry. So we'll
no,
reflect
it's good.
that. Okay, so I do want to say though, think of the best programs in the country and best teachers in the country. I would put Amanda Drinkwater at the top of
Mm,
that list,
hmm
and Darren Davis, and I
hmm
mean others. If you look at them and how they teach their program, it is always about the students.
Right.
You know about them because of the quality that the students achieve because they're phenomenal teachers, but it's not their
Oh yeah,
personality. It's not their,
yeah.
they aren't checking the boxes.
Nope.
They just happen to be really good at what they do. And I think that
hmm
that's a lesson, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean for the lag.
No, it is.
No, I think that's all really good. So you said something a second ago that I just want to draw attention to, which you non-musical, you're an NCAA women's basketball officiant, right? Like
And
you're out
Division One.
there in Division One.
Yeah. Division
How long
one,
have you been
two,
doing that?
three, JUCO, NAI. I started refereeing when I was 17, and
Mm,
it was a way to make money.
Yeah.
Just flat out being honest, it was a way to make money.
Yeah.
And
right.
I remember, man, I've got so many bad visuals, but I just remember going to game sites and not being very good. Now, I played basketball, but I wasn't really the player per se. My brother was, and now he's he's a
Right.
high school coach. But I knew internally I was the musician. Like and everybody else kind of knew that was just like the thing. But I somehow still wanted to stay connected to the game. And well, now I tell
Hmm.
everybody I have the best seat in the house because I get to be on the floor. But um,
Yeah. Right.
it's cool. Sometimes I've gotten run over on the floor, but sometimes when I look back, I go, "There's no way I should have made it this far." Because starting out, I didn't know where to stand. I didn't know where to be. I didn't know what to look
Yeah.
at, and even with help and like clinics and things. But then it got serious because I came home one day, or Dad picked me up from a game, and I was like, "I'm done." I even remember the school site back home where I was after I finished the game, which I won't say, but I left the gym. Dad was outside to pick me up, and I just remember this coach was berating me, and I internally was just like, I can't do this. And so I told my dad, I said, well, that's the last game I'm doing. I'm not doing another game. And he said, hell, you are. He said, you got a game on Friday. I was like, no, I ain't doing that. I'm done. They yell at me. I said, I'm just doing what I see. And he's like, you will be fine.
Yeah.
And hindsight, I go, that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because what he was
Right.
trying to instill in me was if I ran from that, I would always run when things get hard.
Yeah. That's good advice. Then you're going to be fine. Keep after it.
I'm trying.
Yeah. So now are you planning to keep moving up? Are you trying to like go to the big times here and do the women's NBA? What are we doing?
Yeah. You know, that was when I was younger, that was so much of a thing. But as I got older and wiser, I had to realize because getting into that, many of the NBA basketball referees, most people don't know, have never even refereed college basketball. Like some of them have never even done NCAA. No, some of them
Oh,
have just done like
interesting.
AAU or high school. Yeah, some of them have only
Right.
done like JUCO. You know,
Yeah.
um, but when I was younger, there was definitely a thing. But I think it was a thing because I thought it was really cool. If I'm just being honest. But as I got older and I realized just a little bit more grounded and rooted in who I am and what I enjoy, I knew that NCAA was just kind of. I feel the feel that I get from college basketball is a little bit more competitive. There's this
Yeah.
there's this very much sense of good, healthy athleticism and competition, where NBA can be a little bit of, oh man,
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of
you know,
ego in the NBA. I love
yes,
college basketball. It's one of my favorite things. But so, Leandro, we've administrator, band director, officiant for NCAA Division One. So you got a lot of things going on here. I'm curious, just as kind of as we wrap up things, if a young teacher, you've got a lot of perspectives. If a young teacher or composer were listening and feeling pulled in multiple directions, what perspective might help them trust the long view of their own path? What do you think?
it's so funny. I'm from Longview, so when you said Longview, I thought, oh, it's my hometown. I thought, go Lobos. Um, I your path your path doesn't have to make sense to you right now to be valid. Like I don't think
Hmm.
I don't think that right now where you are, it's you're not gonna have everything figured out. It's not gonna make sense. Things don't always make sense. And I'm a person who thrives off of clarity. And so
Hmm.
when I don't have it, sometimes I can start spiraling and going, oh, okay, I need to know where the floor is, you know. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the uncertainty is part of the growth, and it's certainly okay, because that's how you're going to mature and get better at what you do. And I very much so believe that where you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. It's exactly where you're supposed to be. So
Yeah.
often we think that, I'm behind, or I didn't get, or somebody stood in the way of this opportunity for me. And I'm saying all of this from experience, because I felt at times that I didn't get the role because somebody stood in the way of me, or I felt that I
Mm.
didn't get the gig in that conference because somebody had a stumbling block in the way. But the reality
Right.
is that life is all about alignment. It is all about alignment and being in
Right.
position, so that
Yeah.
when the opportunity comes, all you do is just walk through the door. But so often we want to get to places too soon, and you can't sustain.
Mm.
Had I have gone in
Yeah.
Division 1 basketball when I was 22, there's no way that would have been sustainable if a coach would yell. I mean, you got to think. I mean, you're working if you're working Division 1 basketball game, or even D2 or D3 for that matter, where the coach's job is really reliant upon them
Yeah.
winning. It's not a high school coaching job where you're under contract and you move to a
Right.
term, and
Yeah.
once you're on a term, you're there for God knows how long, and you don't even have to be great. You know, treat your kids well, do your gig, move on down the road, you're good. NCAA, not so
Right.
much. They want you to win. Um, but
Yeah.
had
You got to
had I have
perform.
gone in that too soon, yeah, like you got to perform and do the job. But had I have gone in that too soon, and a coach would have yelled at me, and I would have thought that that was somehow a life sentence upon my worth, then I wouldn't have been sustainable in that. And
Mm.
I only say that now because it's hindsight. But in the moment,
Sure.
like it's like, man, I should have had that opportunity. Man, I knew I was supposed to have that gig. Well, the truth is, maybe so, but just not yet.
Right. No, I think
Well,
that's fantastic advice.
so now is the time where we ask a, a few questions of all of our guests, and so Leandre, I will take the first one. You were kind of talking about something similar to this earlier, but do you have a soapbox topic? And it can be anything.
A soapbox topic. Oh yes, this is gonna make people mad, but
Good.
I feel like David and I would agree. I feel like you would agree too, John. When I was a band director, the amount of time that I used the metronome was barely. And what I have found out, this is my theory, so take it for what it's worth. Um, I think that the more that they're reliant upon the metronome, the less they are inclined to actually count in time. And I have found out that the younger the player and the more that they tap their little toe on the ground, the more it's actually not in time. And the moment I say, hey, everyone stop tapping and just play, then it all somehow, it's like, that was really good. You want to know why? Because you weren't all tapping at random times. But
Random
we are
times. Yeah.
so, and And you can tell this is so because I'm about to get into it. It's because like the metronome in many pieces is symbolic to control. That's a quote for somebody. The metronome in many respects is a symbolism of control. It is that it's like when you see it all the time, conductors who feel like they have to give a 4 for nothing every single time. And I'm like, wow, as a performer, I'm a little bit, what's the word I should use? Offended that you need to micromanage me to start playing. You know, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's, and I definitely don't need you to micromanage me to start sound. So,
Right.
but it all, if you go back to the root of it, I think that there are many like little things, but if you go back to the root of it, like all the prep before starting off and the loud blaring of the metronome and using it ad nauseum is all centered around control. And that's a little deep. It's a little deep,
That's
but
pretty
it's
deep.
about control, not in a manipulative sense, but in the sense that I don't feel that they can do it without me. That kind of control, not in a manipulative sense, but in the sense of if I don't do this thing, they won't do it without me.
Yeah. Well, it's just really interesting because the metronome, we've never actually discussed that on the podcast, I don't think. I think we've all used it. I mean, we all use it. I used it. I did an honor band last weekend. I used the metronome.
I do it all the time. Yeah.
I used the metronome to create tempo for all of us in the room. And I turned it off. We didn't play with the metronome. Like I didn't rehearse with the metronome. I used it as a tool for us to understand where tempo needed to be. And then we played. If we weren't at that tempo, I could use that as a tool to recalibrate. I think it just depends on how you use it. Because if you turn it on and you always play with it, then it does become like there's a snare drum back there just going click, click, or a gawk block or whatever, like we're outside.
Yeah.
And I do think there's value. Like if you're trying to teach like the understanding that we're not playing in time, that's fine. But just turning on the metronome does not teach a person to subdivide. It does not teach a person to fill both subdivisions fully with sound, with air. So the metronome, it is a tool, and I think the problem becomes is it's a misnomer. I think we've created, I say we collectively, the body of teachers have decided that like this is something we need. We need a big metronome at the front of the room. Some of them have a lot of speakers.
Instrument in the group.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so loud.
It is just so loud. And it's very interesting. The group that I worked with this past weekend, a couple weekends ago, their time was pretty strong. It wasn't perfect, but I didn't use that to like. I went in going like assuming they're all going to play with great time. I'm trusting that you're going to play with the time that I give you from the front of the room. That's what I have to, at least in my opinion nowadays, many years later. And I used the metronome a lot when I was a much younger teacher.
Oh, yeah.
But now I don't. I actually look at this as that is a tool to help me understand how we are relating to each other vertically. And that is it. Nothing more, nothing less. If I turn it on, it becomes a crutch if I just leave it on.
Yeah.
Like they're not having to think for themselves anymore. They're not having to subdivide. Yeah, and they do. They tune it out. How many of us have turned the metronome off midstream because, well, we're not quite with it, so let's just click that off.
Yep.
You know, we've done it. So it's really interesting. That could actually be an entire topic. So it's a soapbox, obviously, for you. I think for me, it's something I've had to grow through. Like, how important is it? I think it's really important. Why would I not use this tool that was created to help us understand time better? But at the same time, if I'm constantly relying upon it, the students are now doing the same. You know, so for me, if I'm thinking like, okay, I want this, we really have to hold this at 160. Okay, that can help us. Like, we're going to set this at 160 and notice like, we're not with this now. What's happening that's keeping us from doing that? Now let's rehearse on that. Let's make that work. So it can be a helpful tool. It's when it becomes a crutch. And I also hate this is when it does now it's my soapbox. Sorry. I clearly have a soapbox here. I don't like when the metronome becomes the conductor. The metronome isn't the conductor. Like, because I will see people click that thing on and just there's nothing happening here. It's all just the box. Just go with the box. Like, well, what about the communication between the players and the conductor in this two-way street? I don't know. There's a soapbox. I got to be quiet. It's time to move on to my question now, which is there a particular book or books that have inspired you in your journey?
Oh man, yes. And it may be up on my shelf. Um, but there is a really, really great book, and a lot of um, a lot of the work that I've been doing, especially like internally, um, and just focusing on myself and how can I make myself improve, especially even as an
Mm-hmm.
administrator and a person, composer, which a lot of this year really really sort of took hold to. I picked up a book that's titled "Don't Believe Everything You Think" by Joseph Nguyen, and it's really really good because I know that as an empath that I'm in here a lot,
Right.
right? Um, and that sort of ties into the, man, what if I don't get this? It's a lot of the thinking, and the book by Joseph sort of talks about how a lot of the despair that we endure as people, it's sort of self-inflicted. It's almost like we're bracing for
Yep.
impact before impact even occurs. It's like I need to worry about this thing prematurely so that somehow I can protect myself and it won't happen, or the pain will be less, and nothing has happened. And so the book is really
Right.
good because it really puts a spin on sort of how we think, and I recommend it to anybody. Don't believe everything you think, and
Yeah, I love
um,
it.
it puts a spin on how you think internally, and how not every situation that appears to be danger is really danger. You
Yeah.
know,
Great
it's just
suggestion.
very
Great
interesting.
suggestion.
Yeah,
That is true. All right. Well, I'll tell you, this has been a fascinating conversation, Leandre. Thank you. So I'm gonna ask you the
thank you
final
all.
question, and arguably the most important. So, what
Mm.
is your favorite time signature?
My favorite time signature, probably 6/8.
6/8.
I love this just
Leandre.
rollicking feel. I just love this. And we
Well, I
don't.
think
Hey, and it's
6/8
another
is
soapbox.
6/8 is a great time signature.
It is good.
However, the correct answer was common time.
Oh, dang it! Can we cut that out, Teresa?
She's like, we just added everything today.
What a great conversation, Leandre. Well, you're just wonderful, and all the things that
Oh,
you
you're too
do,
kind.
I think are shaping a very exciting career for you, right? Because
Yeah, absolutely.
ultimately, even with the basketball piece, with the administrator piece, with the band director piece, with the composer piece, you have a unique understanding of students and teachers, and that is a gift. And I am envious
Yep.
of that. So thank you for your service. First of all, thank you for all
Thank you all.
that you do for students.
Absolutely. And
Thank you all.
Leandre, before we jump off, is your publisher, is it C. Allen?
Yeah, that's one of them. But it's
So
mostly Sean, Wingard, and Carl Fisher.
gotcha. So if you're out there looking for pieces of music, Leandre's got a growing catalog of really great pieces. So
Excellent.
check those out.
Yeah, check it out.
And look for more, because I know he'll send me stuff every once in a while. Hey, what do you think about this one? So every time he sends me one, it's honestly, I can hear the voice developing even more and more. So it's so exciting to get to talk to you today. Thanks so much for being with us
Good to see you
and
guys.
sharing your thoughts.
Yes, sir.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks for spending part of your day with us on the Common Time Podcast. If today's conversation gave you something to think about or something to try with your students, we'd love for you to share this episode with a colleague.
And you can also follow us on social media for episode clips, behind the scenes content, and updates to our upcoming guests. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
Until next time, keep making music and keep making a difference.